My name is Beth Emerson. I have the pleasure of being the signature programs producer here at the Nantucket Film Festival, which clearly means that I get to talk a lot. So here at day 4 of the festival, I have officially lost my voice. But that does not stop me from annoying you with it right now. To welcome you here, to thank Showtime, our longtime sponsor, to thank the White Elephant, to thank all of you for being here tonight, and to also welcome to the stage Ophira Eisenberg, our host for this evening. She is also the host of Ask Me Another on NPR. She has rocked it here at the Late Night Storytelling for many years. Please welcome Ophira Eisenberg.
I'm going to use this, like this. Maybe. It's getting hot. There we go. Hello, Late Night Storytelling, year 4 for me. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you. It is my pleasure to be back here in Nantucket. I look forward to it every year. Still no internet, huh? Gonna get it one day. One day it's gonna happen. Thank you so much for joining us. We have an amazing show for you this evening. Now, for the last 3 years that I've been part of it, we've been doing late night storytelling where people come on stage and tell true stories from their life. And this year, we decided to change things up. Because once something is successful, it's time to fuck with it. So, what we are doing this year is Beth Emerson have gone through famous letters from well-known people, whether they are celebrities or writers or personalities, these beautiful letters, and we have asked people here at the festival to come up and read a letter, either just read it and add a personal story or whatever embellishment to it. So this is going to be focused a little bit more on the ancient craft of writing letters. Does anyone? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I like it. Right? Right, because letters to emails, that is just, could that be more different? That's like, email. Oh, every time I look at my email box, I'm basically like, everyone should die. I mean, that's how I feel about email. They are the deer ticks to the letter, which is the butterfly. I'm a relatively new mom. Last year I was here with the little baby. Some of you are nodding because you followed my life through this, because I usually come up here in some sort of state of like, I'm losing my mind, and I tell you about what's going on. How many people here have been to our late night storytelling before? Some claps? Okay. Some of you are new. So the last few years of me doing this have been the biggest years in my life, because as an old broad like myself, at the age of 43 years old, I had a child. So yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's right. Old broad, right here. They said it wasn't possible. They called me a geriatric pregnancy. They said I was pregnant at a mature age. And I have this little kid now. He's 1.5 years. Yeah, thanks. He seems cool. Seems like a good egg. Actually, I know for a fact he was literally my last good egg. And I had a lot of advice from parents telling me that I should do what they did and write letters to my child. Actually, one woman, I was doing a show at Canyon Ranch Spa. That's a good place to feel good about yourself. There's no salt there. You have to use weird seaweed flakes. It's very weird. But I was doing a show there, and a woman said to me, you know what I did from the time my child was, born to 10 years old? I wrote him a letter every single day. Yeah, right? Clearly you have no job, no aspirations. But that's amazing. I have not been able to do that at all. I have a little book that someone gave me where you're just supposed to write a line every day, which basically haunts us. Like, it just makes us feel like, oh, we also failed at this. Like but I've tried to record things. I can tell, so this is the only child I will ever have. my little boy, Lucas. I have a boy. He's a boy for now. And it's a whole different thing. I don't even look at this as having a child. I see this as creating an intern for my life. Yeah, people are like, are you giving him screen time? I'm like, just Excel. Little contact management. So I am the youngest of six. As the youngest of six, a lot of my life was not recorded at all because my parents were just done with it, like done. And so I know for a fact my son's first word after mama and papa or dada was apple. And my husband, his family always likes to tell the story how he, a Jewish boy growing up in New York, his first word was bagel. It's true, his first word was bagel. And I have asked what my first word was, and my mother told me my first word was, no one remembers because nobody cared because you were the youngest of six and it didn't matter. So that was my first word. I actually my mother is 80 years old. I talked to her today. She was refinishing the deck, which she should not be doing, but that is her way. And it's not that she won't hire someone because she can't afford it. It's the idea of having a stranger, weirdly. A stranger's gonna do my deck? All right, so you can do it at 88, that's fine. But we had this amazing conversation because, my family isn't into, my mother especially isn't into happiness or hope or support. And she said, what are you doing tonight? And I said, I'm doing a show. And, usually that's still confusing to her that I do shows. And she's like, where's Lucas? I'm like, he's at home with Jonathan, my husband. And she was like, are they alive? And I was like, don't know. This is a little thing we do. Which is true, I don't know. And she said, I always love hearing you tell jokes. I know, it was so bizarre. You don't know this, but I've never heard her say anything like that in my life. And I said back to her, does someone have a gun to your head? And she said, my friends, it often comes up that you do stand-up, and my friends, her senior friends, say to her, she must have been so funny around the house. And my mother said to me on the phone today, and I always say to them, I don't remember her ever saying anything funny. So if you're wondering how a comedian is created, it's exactly that kind of support and loving environment. So I'm clearly fine. My husband is at home with the child. This is the first time I've not have him here, which is interesting. So that means I can tell you how that's going. I love the guy. He's a great guy. And since we had the baby, I found out that my husband is just okay. We fight a little bit more. We do fight a little bit more. And I think we had this is so stereotypical, but we had this fight. He said to me, since I've been married to you, I have never been right. And I was like, well, you were just then. So that's one. I will be talking more throughout this evening about letters I wish I could write people and letters I have. And of course, we'll be hearing some amazing letters from both the storytellers who are telling them and from the amazing people that have written them. We also have asked you guys in the audience to contribute by writing a letter, like writing the first line of a letter you wish you could send someone. We have a whole bunch of them that are fantastic. I'd like to share one with you right now. Someone wrote this letter that they wish they could send. Dear landscapers. Already fantastic, right? Yeah. Sorry, I accidentally served you a Go Lightly, which is a laxative drink, on that hot summer day, and never saw you again. So I look forward to sharing more of those. So each of our storytellers, festival guests, are going to come up here. They are going to read a letter and perhaps riff on it. We keep the convention, if you've come here before, we like to keep a convention of time to these performances on the stage. So you know Lily Singer. Yes, one of the people that is so instrumental in making sure the Nantucket Film Festival runs smoothly. And once again tonight, she has a fantastic job. She is a timekeeper of sorts. So the storyteller has 5 minutes or so to talk about their story and riff, with some liberty. But if they go on too long, if they get into like the 9-10 range, we're gonna let them know with something subtle. Lily is going to play on the xylophone a little tone. Let's demonstrate. So I'm going on and on. It's like the 9-minute mark, and I introduce a new character to my story. And yeah. So that means time to wrap it up. Time to find, you have about a minute to like find your last line. And then we'll give it a minute. If still the ending of whatever the person is talking about is very, very far in the future, she will let them know with a more aggressive sound on the xylophone. Yeah, good. Yeah, right. That sounds like a Nokia phone. Yeah. And a little down there, very good. So that lets them know when they hear that, da-da-da, it's time to just like wrap it up, find the last line. We do this in storytelling shows a lot. I like that we do it here. It is one of my favorite conventions to have a timekeeper who is playing a musical instrument. So much so, I really do wish this existed in real life. I think this would be a wonderful thing just to have someone like Lily accompany you around to cocktail events, parties, at the festival. So if you end in that situation where someone's like, I have an amazing story, at the 10-minute mark, you can be like, Lily, and be like, wrap it up, Phil, it's time to move on. So here's a letter I would like to share, written by Joe Biden, to start things off. Yeah, I know. Joe Biden. So many things have changed. Dear Miles, I am sorry it took me so long to respond to your letter. I really like your idea. If we had guns that shot chocolate, not only would our country be safer, it would be happier. People love chocolate. You're a good boy. Joe Biden. I very much hope that Miles has that framed or something and didn't just like, he didn't send back anything good, like that. That is one kind of a thing. How sweet is it that some child wrote that all the guns should shoot chocolate and our whole country would be safer? I do like the statement that Joe Biden makes that I feel sums him all up. The statement, people love chocolate. In case you weren't sure of how that works out on a mainstream level. People love chocolate, and you're a good boy. Okay, we are going to start with our first festival favorite person that is here that is going to come up and read a letter. I am so happy that she has agreed to do this, and I had the pleasure of sort of talking to her a little bit today. Our first storyteller is part of the terrific Showtime series Episodes. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's you. Did you not know that? Yeah. I didn't make up the order. Don't freak out. Don't freak out. Joe Biden. Take Joe down. Is that okay? Do you want to do a quick circle round? Do you want to talk about anything? Okay, good. She also presented the Creative Impact Television Award last night to David Crane and Jeffrey Clarick. Please welcome our first storyteller, letter reader. Here you are, Kathleen Rose Perkins. Kathleen Rose Perkins. I didn't know your real name. I want to make sure I got that right.
Oh, hi. Get ready for that little xylophone, because I'm going to riff my heart out. Meaning I'm not going to riff at all. Just so you know, I'm just reading the letter because I'm so nervous. Okay, here we go. 1974. To the director, George Roy Hill. Dear Mr. Hill, seeing that I have seen your fantastically entertaining and award-winning film, The Sting, right? Starring Paul Newman and Robert Redford, and enjoyed it very much, it is altogether fitting and proper that you should discover me. Now, right away, I know what you were thinking. Who is this kid? And I can understand your apprehensions. I am a nobody. No one outside of Skyline High School has heard of me. My looks are not stunning. I am not built like a Greek god, and I can't even grow a mustache. But I figure if people will pay to see certain films, they will pay to see me. Let's work out the details of my discovery. We can do it the way Lana Turner was discovered, me sitting on a soda shop stool. You walk in and notice me, and bango! I am a star. Or maybe we could do it this way. I stumble into your office one day and beg for a job. To get rid of me, you give me a stand-in part in your next film. While shooting the film, the star breaks his leg in the dressing room, and because you are behind schedule already, you arbitrarily place me in his part, and bango! I am a star. All of these plans are fine with me, or we could do it any way you would like. It makes no difference to me. But let's get one thing straight. Mr. Hill, I do not want to be some big-time Hollywood superstar with girls crawling all over me. Just a hometown American boy who has hit the big time, owns a Porsche, and calls Robert Redford Bob. Respectfully submitted, your pal forever, Thomas J. Hanks. I wish that I had written something like that. When I was in high school, my favorite film was Dead Poets Society. And if I had the balls, I wish that I had written Peter Weir and said, hey, how about an all-female version of Dead Poets Society? Wouldn't that be amazing? Right? Let's do it. Let's produce it. Let's do this all together. We could do this. Yeah, that's it. And the only other thing that I would change is I grew up in the 80s, 90s, so I would probably, instead of bango, I probably would have said wham! But that's it, right?
It is very funny to think of him as Thomas Hanks, right? That's like Billy Idol going as William Idol. Like, what is that about? It's never happened. That was a nice way to start. Yeah, what do you think of this? Yeah, Kathleen Rose Perkins, everybody. I pulled another one from the audience participation. This one is actually very specific. I don't know if it is actually written to someone here, because it says, Dear Aiden. So if your name is Aiden, perk up. Just so you know, I have always had a crush on you. Let's cocktail. And then it said, love or something. J. Just the letter J. Don't know what's going on here, do we? So I don't know right now. I wanted to get that out early too, so that, as the night goes on, those people can deal with the tension that is causing them. I guess I am old enough to say that I wrote tons. I wrote letters and posted letters to so many boyfriends and couple girls over the years. Gender's a spectrum. And I cannot, now would be emails, I suppose, right? It's amazing. I did send a lot of, my husband and I, all of our correspondence emails, but I sent letters that I didn't want to send. I sent a letter to a boyfriend that I thought we should be together after we totally broke up, that I wrote super fast, thinking like, I just got to get this out really fast before I talk myself out of it, because we should be together and I'm just going to tell him and take a risk, and this is what you do. And then I went to mail it, but I didn't have an envelope, so I made an envelope out of a piece of paper, right? You can just take a piece of paper and tape up the sides and it's an envelope. Do you know that? You can save a lot of money on envelopes going forward. And ran it out to the mailbox. Mailboxes, man, there is nothing more final than that metal clank of a mailbox closing. It is just sort of like, done! And then as soon as it did that clang, I was like, oh no, right? It put me back into reality. And I thought, I shouldn't be with this person. He's a puppeteer. Like, that's not a thing that you should do in life, hook up with a puppeteer or have a future. And, but it's not like email, where you send an email, it was received in a minute. It's mail. It had like weeks to go. So I just sat there like freaking out the whole time, feeling bad, feeling stupid. And that letter arrived, and that guy called me. He called me, which is a brave move. He called me, and I picked up the phone, and he said, we had a little bullshit chit chat. And then he said, I got your letter. And I said, I'm sorry. I was like, I was drunk. I, started making up a story. I was drunk. I was feeling sentimental. I'm sorry. And he said, well, interesting you say that. And I'm just going to stop you there because you're very bad at making things. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, did you make an envelope? I said, yeah, I made an envelope. I don't know if you know this. You can make envelopes. You'll save a lot of money going forward. And he said, well, you're bad at it. And he claimed that my envelope came apart. So what he received was just an envelope, no letter. And he was like, so what did you write? What are you so shameful about? And I said, I'm shameful that it was not good writing because I was just wishing you well. He knew it was bullshit. I knew it was bullshit. But in that moment, we both agreed in this shared fantasy of bullshit. Like, I don't know, did the letter arrive and he just wanted to save me? I actually don't think a puppeteer is that strategic or smart. I think he was just letting me off, as it were. And I am very grateful for the postage situation, for the post to be so hard on their letters. Sometimes you get a package and you're like, what the fuck happened here? For once I was like, thank you for handling it so weird. Thank you. Our next storyteller, letter reader, is the former executive director of Theater Workshop, Nantucket. She also co-owns Atlas Restaurant, so make sure you stop by if you haven't already. Please welcome to our stage, Gabrielle Gould.
I think we're good, right? Yeah? Okay, hi, how is everybody? Okay. In 1982, on June 7th, a gentleman by the name of Jack Lemmon wrote the following to Burt Reynolds. Dear person, it has come to my attention that you sent a contribution of $10,000 to the Jack Lemmon Burn Center in the Children's Hospital of Buffalo. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry that you couldn't come up with a sizable contribution. But God knows, after all these years, I, as much as anyone, understand the ups and downs of this crazy business. Some years are good, some years are bad, and even though you're obviously on that shit list, I certainly appreciate the fact that you made some kind of an effort, no matter how meager. I do not think it is important for me to clarify an area of possible confusion on your part. Burn Center has nothing to do with your critical reaction of your work. However, it is too fucking late, so we're going to keep the money and help a hell of a lot of kids. One of these days, I'm going to work with you, eventually, even if it kills me, and it probably will. Many thanks and loves, signed, Jack Lemmon. Also, CC, Lee B. Winkler, your business manager. So probably the number one job of running a theater or any arts organization is fundraising. And before that, I spent 5 years raising money for Small Friends of Nantucket for their building. So I have 10 years of fundraising experience. And when I got this letter yesterday, I thought, okay, I'm gonna tell a story about somebody else. And then I realized I can't really do that because it's a really small island. So my story is me. I am the evil person. I am the Burt Reynolds in this story, and it's taken me years to get over it and years of repenting as well. Many, many years ago, my husband and I took a chance and we built a spec house on Nantucket. And we put it on the market the day that Lehman collapsed. So we knew we were done. We were way in deep to the bank. We had no money. So I took a day and I went off island at 6:30 in the morning with my car to get everything it needed to rent it out for the summer. And I came back at around 5:30 that day, and in typical me fashion, had not eaten anything during the day, but had had several cups of coffee. And on the boat, I ran into a friend of mine, and she said, come to this fundraiser with me tonight. My husband can't come. I have 2 tickets. I've already paid for them. And I'm like, oh, God, no, I'm beat. But you know what? Yeah, I'm not having a great week. I'm going to go out. I'm going to have some fun tonight. So I rush home. I get changed. I go out, and I come to the Sconsa Casino, and I get handed a G&T as soon as I walk in the door. And I suck it down. And I look around, and I realize there's no food. And I'm like, okay, it's all right. And believe it or not, for my stature being 5'8" and not petite, I'm an incredible lightweight. And before I left for the evening, my husband looked at me and he said, by God, if you raise a paddle, I will kill you. And I was like, not gonna raise a paddle, you're fine, I got this. So my friend comes back up and she has another G&T and she puts it in my hand and I suck it down. And they start the auction, and it's a live auction. And one of the packages is something that is the ultimate thing I do not need, because I literally have everything in the package. But I don't know why. I start raising my paddle. And I think I'm doing such a good thing for these guys. I'm raising the bid. And I have this guy bidding against me, and he's going, and I'm like, great, gotcha. And then all of a sudden, they say, sold. The lady in blue, I don't even know what color I'm wearing, and I'm like, oh no. Oh, no. And it all hits me, and it hits hard. And I immediately turn around and throw up into a plant. It was bad, and my friend grabs me, and she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, my husband's gonna kill me. We don't have any money right now. We're in really big trouble, and of course you don't know this because we've kept it to ourselves, but I'm going a million miles a minute. She says, you gotta go outside, and you gotta call your husband. I said, okay. So I go outside, and I'm like, hey, babe. He's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, so I don't have my wallet and I don't have my credit card, so if you can just give me a credit card over the phone so I can go in and pay for this, that would be really great. And he's like, no. You're gonna walk back in there and you're going to tell them that you can't do it. And I'm like, I can't. I'm part of this community. I work in fundraising. I cannot do this. And he's like, fine, I'm on my way. All of a sudden, the car pulls out front, and I'm sitting there shaking. And he walks up, and he comes, and he grabs me, and this is not a normally forceful human being. My husband's really calm and cool and collected, and he's like, come on, pull up your big boy pants, walk in there, and tell them that they've got to find the next guy, the guy that you were bidding against. So I do. I walk in, and I do it, and they stare at me. They do not like me. I don't think they liked me to begin with, but now they really do not like me. And I'm horrified. And I get in the car and I cry the whole way home. And my husband's really nice and he tucks me in and he's like, sweetie, we all mess up. And I'm like, okay, we'll get over this. And about 6 months later, I received this scathing email from one of the people on the board, just infuriated with me, just as nasty can be. And I'm like, but you sold it to the next person, like why? And this person still won't talk to me and it's fine. But I always say that part of the reason why I was so happy to work for so little in nonprofit was because I had this insane guilt all the time. And I was like, I have to raise as much money for as many nonprofits as I possibly can just to pay back this debt. And over the years, I have raised millions of dollars, and I have had people pull out of far bigger contributions and pledges and auction items, and it's always a devastating thing. And every time it's happened, and every time I've been ready to write that letter, I've had to pull myself back and think, I don't know what just happened in their day. Maybe Lehman just crashed on them too. Thanks.
Gabrielle Gould, everybody. So I will say, I guess you can tell what I've ever been part of in a fundraising thing. I didn't know you could pull out. Good to know, right? Good to know. That changed. They're going to be so much more fun going forward. Yeah, totally. Let's do this. I just love any story that involves a quick puking in a plant. I feel like no one is at their best when you find a small plant that you are going to throw up in a public space. Not even going to make it to the bathroom, just a little bit of foliage that's going to hide the puke. It's fertilizer, you'll see. I have nothing of that, but it did remind me that the one and only time, and I'm sure many of you are like, I've been there, I went to Napa. I didn't realize that for a wine tasting, they give you like a quarter glass of wine, and when you go in there, you're like, oh, there's gonna be like little thimbles, so we'll do the tasting of the 12 wines. No, all the whites, and then all of the reds, and yeah, we'll do the limited vintages of whatever, and you were just toasted, and we bought some package where you go to 17 vineyards or whatever. And by the end of it, we were just a wreck. I was just like, I've never been this drunk in my entire life. I don't even know what's going on right now. I was high. I remember eating chicken wings. I don't even know, can you get chicken wings in Napa? Maybe I made them. I have no idea how that was possible. But then we got back to New York, and over the course of the next year, we found out that we joined many wine clubs, many wine clubs. Many cases of wine came to our house, delivered by someone that needed a signature for an exorbitant amounts of money that we had to slowly call. And they're used to these calls. They're always just like, yeah, well, we thought we'd try. Like, they know they're part of the same game. We're like, yeah, we know you're wasted. Your signature was you licked it. So thought we'd give it a shot. Our next storyteller coming to the stage is a novelist. We are so happy to have him come and read a letter, share a story. Please welcome Matthew Sharp, everybody. Matthew Sharp. Do you want me to do it?
Is that good? Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I am going to read actually a short story that is in the form of a letter. It is by the illustrious Lydia Davis, and it is called Letter to a Funeral Parlor. Dear Sir, I am writing to you to object to the word cremains, which was used by your representative when he met with my mother and me 2 days after my father's death. We had no objection to your representative, personally, who was respectful and friendly and dealt with us in a sensitive way. He did not try to sell us an expensive urn, for example. What startled and disturbed us was the word cremains. You in the business have invented this word, and you are used to it. We, the public, do not hear it very often. We don't lose a close friend or family member very many times in our life. And years pass in between if we are lucky. Even less often do we have to discuss what is to be done with a family member or close friend after their death. We noticed that before the death of my father, you and your representative used the words loved one to refer to him. That was comfortable for us, even if the ways in which we loved him were complicated. Then we were sitting there in our chairs in the living room, trying not to weep in front of your representative, who was opposite us on the sofa, and we were very tired, first from sitting up with my father, and then from worrying about whether he was comfortable as he was dying, and then from worrying about where he might be now that he was dead. And your representative referred to him as the cremains. At first, we did not know what he meant. Then, when we realized, we were frankly upset. Cremains sounds like something invented as a milk substitute. Like Cremora or Coffee Mate. Or it sounds like some kind of a chipped beef dish. As one who works with words for a living, I must say that any invented word like porta potty or pooper scooper has a cheerful or even jovial ring to it that I don't think you really intended when you invented the word cremains. In fact, my father himself, who was a professor of English and is now being called the cremains, would have pointed out to you that the alliteration in porta potty and the rhyme in pooper scooper. Then he would have told you that cremains falls into the same category as brunch and is known as a portmanteau word. There is nothing wrong with inventing words, especially in a business, but a grieving family is not prepared for this one. We are not even used to our loved one being gone. You could very well continue to employ the term ashes. We are used to it from the Bible and are even comforted by it. We would not misunderstand. We would know that these ashes are not like the ashes in a fireplace. Yours sincerely, Lydia Davis. Thanks.
I had to compose myself because that was so darkly amazing. Matthew Sharp, everybody. At first, I was thinking about craisins. Just one thing that's another thing of parenthood that I will never get used to, craisins. I thought I missed all of that. I enjoyed this letter from the audience member. You were the love of my life. Thank God I got over it and married the real love of my life. Yeah, talking about embarrassment of riches. 2 real loves, not like the rest of us. Good enough, really? You had 2 real loves? I'm going to keep going. We have more things to say. I want to be conscious of time because it is a little hot in here. So we're going to keep going with, and we have some amazing people coming up, like this next person, who is an Emmy Award-winning actor. And he has written and directed 2 films, Southie and Grey Lady. Yeah, both presented here at the Nantucket Film Festival. Please welcome John Shea, everybody.
No, thank you, Ophira. So happy to follow Mike Verbiglia, right? Yeah, thank you, Ophira. Thank you. What did I do to you? Thank you. What would we do without laughter? What would we do without people like Ophira? You know? What would we do? Yeah, you know? Wow. What will we do without Oscar Wilde? Oscar Wilde wrote this letter to an unknown editor in England. The address is 16 Tite Street, T-I-T-E Street, February 1892. Sir, John is an admirable name. It was the name of the most charming of all the disciples, the one who did not write the fourth gospel. It was the name of the most perfect of all the English poets of this century. It was the greatest English poet of all centuries. Popes and princes, wicked or wonderful, have been called John. John has been the name of several eminent journalists and criminals, but John is not among the many delightful names they included: Oscar, Fingal, O'Flaherty, Willis, given to me at my baptism. So kindly let me correct the statement made by your reckless dramatic critic in his last and unavailing attack on my play. The attempt he makes to falsify one of the most important facts in the history of the arts must be checked at once. Yours truly, Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde, not John Wilde. In 1892, I want to say, this building was being dreamed of. And in 1899, it was built. But in 1892, you're right. We still don't have internet here in Sconset, I know, or Nantucket, but we have Morse code. You may not know that in this building they had inventors' conventions, and one of the inventors was a guy named Marconi, who had invented, the Morse code. And you may not know that the very first, not ship to shore, but shore to ship message was sent from Syosconset, Massachusetts, about the same time that Oscar Wilde wrote this letter in 1892. From the top of Main Street on Nantucket in Sconset to a ship offshore, and he sent the same message that we send these days by internet to that ship: get me the fuck off this island and someplace warm. Thank you.
John Shea, everybody. I love the, I don't know, I'm enjoying the letters. I feel like they bring, I know it's a different format, but I think, yeah, I'm into it. I was just talking to before John came up, and I sort of had a big moment, a brief moment where I was talking about basically having sex with my husband. Again, I stopped because nobody wants to hear about having sex with your husband. I used to talk all the time about dating guys when I was dating guys. When I moved to New York, I'm originally from Canada, I was very slutty. I was, in Canada, we call it being nice, but here and I used to tell stories all the time about the different guys that I dated. And let me tell you, everybody wants to hear stories, random stories of guys that you are hooking up with. That kind of book is a comedic memoir. Nobody wants to hear stories of you having sex with your husband. That book is in health and wellness. It is totally a different thing. So I will not talk about that at all. Before we have two more storytellers this evening, I just want to read something that I thought of today, just because I will not write my son a letter. But I will tell you, as someone who became an accidental parent or a parent much later in life, I never thought I would have a child. I judged harshly and was not very cool around a lot of my friends who became moms when I was still just hanging out and slutting around New York. And now I am eating my words. Now I understand them a lot more, and I feel very bad. And so I have written a letter to my friends who are moms who put up with me, basically, for all those years. It is very short. It is sharp, and it is short. Dear my mom friends, you were smart enough to have kids when you were a decent age. I am sorry that I gave you a hard time for always talking about your kid. And I never asked enough questions about your kid because I didn't really care. But I get it now. If someone doesn't ask me about my kid, they are dead to me. And like you, I don't care if they're listening or even interested. All I want to do is talk about my kid. Because bringing this child into my life, although I love him, has ruined my life. So it's going to be a form of therapy and self-soothing for me to constantly talk about it. I'm sorry I judged you for not losing the baby weight fast enough, and maybe judging you that you let your fashion sense go out the window. I may have even uttered the words, "She dresses like she's given up." Now I understand the only way I'm going to lose the baby weight is through routine stomach flu or hopefully tapeworm. And I also understand that dressing like you've given up has a name, and that name is Eileen Fisher, and I am very grateful for her forgiving designs. Finally, I'm sorry I got frustrated when it seemed like such a big production to go out with you at night. I used to wonder, why is it so hard? Can't you just get a babysitter? Now I understand that hiring a decent babysitter in Brooklyn is a big production, perhaps equivalent to producing 5 to 7 Broadway plays, complete with seamless food orders and many, many Ubers all around town. And it has to be really worth it. So I know that when you didn't get a babysitter to hang out with me, it is the same thing I am saying to many of my friends. You're not worth it. I apologize for being so harsh. We should get together sometime when we're free between 6 and 7 a.m. and reminisce about those old days when I didn't cry and worry all the time. I look forward to your Shutterfly Christmas card, liking your Facebook posts. Yours in solidarity, Ophira. Our next storyteller, letter reader, is an actor and also part of the company of Literally Right Before Aaron, playing here at the festival. Please welcome Dana Delaney, everybody.
Yes, good. Ophira, how's your kid? Okay, this is from Richard Burton to Elizabeth Taylor. And I will spare you my Richard Burton accent. June 25th, 1973, which was 44 years ago tomorrow. So, my lumps, you're off, by God. I can barely believe it, since I am so unaccustomed to anybody leaving me. But reflectively, I wonder why nobody did so before. All I care about, honest to God, is that you are happy, and I don't much care who you'll find happiness with. I mean, as long as he's a friendly bloke and treats you nice and kind. If he doesn't, I'll come at him with a hammer and clinker. God's eye may be on the sparrow, but my eye will always be on you. Never forget your strange virtues. Never forget that underneath that veneer of raucous language is a remarkable and puritanical lady. I am a smashing bore, and why you've stuck by me so long is an indication of your loyalty. I shall miss you with passion and wild regret. You may rest assured that I will not have affairs with any other female. I shall gloom a lot and stare morosely into unimaginable distances and act a bit, probably on the stage, to keep me in booze and butter. But chiefly and above all, I shall write. Not about you, I hasten to add. No Millerinsky me, with a double M. There are many other and ludicrous and human comedies to constitute my shroud. I'll leave it to you to announce the parting of the ways, while I shall never say or write one word except this valedictory note to you. Try and look after yourself. Much love. Don't forget that you are probably the greatest actress in the world. I wish I could borrow a minute portion of your passion and commitment, but there you are. Cold is cold, as ice is ice. So, when I first read this, in my mind, she was going off to make a movie, and he was just saying, I'll see you when you're done. And then I realized, oh no, this is an ending. This is a goodbye letter. And then I thought, fuck you. Screw you. I don't know about you, but I've got like 6 of these letters in a drawer somewhere. And, well, they were started as letters, and then they became faxes. I have a few faxes, and then they became emails. I haven't gotten a text yet like this, but I'm sure I will. And it's always some guy who wants to be thought of well at the end. So he's going to say all these great things about you, and you're so perfect, and you deserve so much better. Somebody else, not me, but you deserve so much better, but it's not going to be me. And like, yeah, no. But I would like to remember Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor when they were in love. And also you should know that a year after this, they did get divorced, and then 2 years later, they remarried, which only lasted a year. And then they both married several other people. But I truly believe that they were the love of each other's lives. I really believe that, and it makes me sad that they did not stay together, because I think they should have. And I'm sure there was a lot of booze involved, and, I don't know the particulars. But I like to remember the beginning of things rather than the endings of things, because I think that human nature is remarkable, that we forget the bad stuff and we always keep going, and that the heart is intrepid, and no matter how many times it's broken, we do try again until the bitter end. I happen to follow Richard Burton's diary on Twitter, and if you don't, it's really remarkable, so I suggest you do. So these are some from that. I won't do all of them, but May 18th, 1965, Elizabeth behaving as if it were the first time for us both to be married to each other. Have to be careful, I might become idolatrous. April 12th, 1966, I shouted and bawled at Elizabeth for being unfit, for taking too much booze. I think I was talking about myself. I had a fear for her. 1967, Elizabeth anxious that I write about her, so here goes. She's a nice fat girl who loves mosquitoes and hates pustular carbuncular Welshmen. 1969, Elizabeth is an eternal one-night stand. She is my private and personal bought mistress, and lascivious with it. 1969, I shall now sit here patiently and wait for her to get up. I'm madly in love with the woman, even after 8 and getting on for 9 years. Speaking of beginnings, I was last in Nantucket as a waitress here in 1975, and I'm amazed that all these places are still here. I mean, nothing changes. Nantucket's like tradition. Like, the Languedoc, the Club Car. I waitressed at the Gordon Folger, which is now the Nantucket Inn, which I must say is a lot better than it was then. And Chanticleer, right across the street. And I just want to tell this little brief thing. In 1975, my mother was going through a divorce, and she came to visit me here on Nantucket, where I was waitressing. And, she was a divorcee and dressing inappropriately, and I just remember a lot of black lace with no bra. And she was looking up here for somebody to go out with. And so we went to dinner at the Chanticleer, and she started flirting with the waiter, who was very cute, and she ended up setting me up with him. And I still remember him. His name was Donnie Stewart, and And I would like to share with you that I had my first orgasm here on Nantucket with the waiter from the Chanticleer. So I will always think very fondly of the Chanticleer. Thank you.
Here you come again? Really? How'd you do that? How did you get that? Well done. Well done up in the production booth. Nailed it. I love an orgasm ending. I love a story that ends with an orgasm ending. Didn't see it coming. All right. And yes. Chanticleer, I don't know what that place was like, but that sounds a very romantic place to get off for the first time. There's a couple of people that wrote letters that were somewhat political, first line, and I feel like this person did it in the most creatively subtle way. Dear President Washington, let me tell you about the man who has your old job. Right? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. This is just an adorable one that I love. I hope this is based on truth. Dear Mom and Dad, camp's okay. Today Billy got kicked in the head by a horse. Bobby fainted by the flagpole. Nothing exciting ever happens to me. Future screenwriter, right there. Future screenwriter. Our next storyteller guest coming up here to read a letter is an actor also in the film Literally Right Before Aaron, playing here at the festival. Please welcome Ryan Eggold.
I was gonna sing if we could keep that going. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Please don't do that. Do not do that. All right, so I just read this letter today. It's from a certain F. Scott Fitzgerald, and I found it kind of inspiring, and I hope that you do too. Let me read this intro here. In a 1933 letter to his 11-year-old daughter, Scott Fitzgerald produces poignant and wise list of things to worry, not worry, and think about, found in the altogether excellent F. Scott Fitzgerald, A Life in Letters. It goes like this. Things to worry about. Worry about courage. Worry about cleanliness. Worry about efficiency. Worry about horsemanship. Worry about things not to worry about. Don't worry about popular opinion. Don't worry about dolls. Also kind of strange. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. Don't worry about growing up. Don't worry about anybody getting ahead of you. Don't worry about triumph. Don't worry about failure unless it comes through your own fault. Don't worry about mosquitoes. Don't worry about flies. Don't worry about insects in general. Don't worry about parents. Don't worry about boys. Don't worry about disappointments. Don't worry about pleasures. Don't worry about satisfactions. Things to think about. What am I really aiming at? How good am I really in comparison to my contemporaries in regard to scholarship? Do I really understand people and am I able to get along with them? Am I trying to make my body a useful instrument or am I neglecting it? And I don't have a lovely anecdote or story about that, but it did inspire me to worry about what is important and worry less about what is not important, which I think for me includes watching less CNN these days. But anyways, have a wonderful night. Try not to worry too much.
Ryan Eggold, everybody. Ryan Eggold. I do feel, and you pointed out the dolls one, it says not to worry about dolls, right? Don't worry about dolls. I don't know. Doll heads. Worry about doll heads. People that collect doll heads, very worried about those people. I don't know if you've ever met those people who collect doll heads. Before we bring up our final storyteller, letter writer, I'd like to read this one. It's just a very short one from Conan O'Brien. Dear Nikki, thank you for your flattering offer. It's great to know I have such a devoted fan out there, and I'm sure you would make a great prom date. I didn't go to mine. It's a very sad story. Let's have a moment right now. Please clap if you did not go to your prom. I'm just curious. It's an interesting personality. Get to know people that didn't go to their prom. I promise you, they're interesting. Unfortunately, I got married recently, and my wife doesn't allow me to go to proms anymore with cute 16-year-old girls. Still, it was very cool of you to ask me. Thanks, and have a great evening. Your friend, Conan O'Brien. Sweet, very sweet. To round the show off, our final storyteller, letter reader, is the star of The Last Man on Earth, and she also killed it this afternoon at the Comedy Roundtable. Please welcome to the stage, Kristen Schaal, everybody.
Give it up for Ophira! Wake up! No. What a great show. Man, I'm still so touched by Dana Delaney's story of her first orgasm. It brought me back to mine. I'll never forget her. It was me. For decades. Probably the last person too, okay. Okay, here we go. You guys are good. You're gonna love this. I am Danny DeVito's mother, writing to thank you both for giving my son a part in your movie Scallywag. My family all went to see it at the Paramount in New York City. It was a great movie. Some of my friends and relatives saw it in Florida. They called me up today to tell me how much they enjoyed it and told me that Danny was great. They liked his acting, so that made me feel proud. Half of Ashbury Park, New Jersey are waiting for it to come here. My daughter owns a beauty salon in Neptune, New Jersey, and has a sign in it, Scallywag coming soon. You see, there is plenty of publicity out there. Love to your son, Michael. He spent a weekend at our house, and we all love him, and we also watch the streets of San Francisco on Thursday nights. Again, I want to thank you both for giving my son a part in your movie. It's great to have a part with a big star like you. Sincerely yours, Mrs. Dan DeVito. So sweet! And that was written to Kirk Douglas and another guy that I looked up on my iPhone and I forgot it. Zoran Kurz. Made that movie, Scallywag. That tickles me so much. I've had sort of an unconventional career path, and my parents have always been very supportive, but they don't always understand what I'm doing. Like I'll have like one line in the movie Norbit where I say, I want to be a hoe. By the way, improvised. Or I'll do this 1 hour comedy special where I'll stage a live bomb and have a giant whoopee cushion come out and tell the rest of the jokes. And they don't get it. Neither do you guys, and neither did a lot of people, but it's gonna be a slow burn. Or I played this one Adult Swim show where it was a woman who didn't want to give up her reign to the holler. It was called Harchie Holler, and she had a baby and didn't want to give birth to it, so she let it grow into a full-size man, and then held a gun to it till her dad agreed. You know what? I have had a weird career, so they're not always like, we went and saw your thing, like they're just confused. Until a couple years ago, I did this movie called A Walk in the Woods, starring Robert Redford and Nick Nolte. And they perked right up. They have never been more excited about anything that I've ever done. They're like, whoa! And so, and it was so thrilling to be on set with those two superstars. I mean, if you ever get a chance, do it. I guess the first day they were on set together, I think Nick Nolte said to Robert Redford, he was like, "Hey, how's it being the best-looking guy on Earth?" Because I guess they both got like best-looking man at one point, and they both just look haggard, and they like looked at like, "How's it feel to you?" And they laughed, and then like at one point, like. Robert Redford, I think I can call him Bob, but I don't know. That's what his friends call him. But he was like, hey, Nolte, when we get a chance, I got a story involving my mom, John Steinbeck, and Marilyn Monroe. You know, and I'd be like, what is it? But then we'd have to go to set, and Nick Nolte was so fun. He would love to talk about his upbringing, and he said, "Yeah, you know, I came up in the theaters in New York City. I went and did Don't Tell Mama." Was that it? Was it Don't Tell Mama? And I studied under Grotowski, and they told me I had to have a secret and an object. So for the whole run of the play, I just stuck a cork up my ass, and that was my secret and my object. Brilliant. Brilliant. So it was Mother's Day while we were filming this movie. Which, by the way, my mom, now she loves the movie so much. She owns it, my mom and dad, and she invites her girlfriends over for a pizza party and the film of A Walk in the Woods. I'm in it for 2 minutes, but that is my going rate. 2 minutes and 5 seconds in the trailer. So, anyways, it was Mother's Day, and I was on the phone with my mom in the car, and then Nick Nolte jumped in the car. He didn't jump. He's old, so he got in the car. He has titanium knees, but he's still at it. And so he got in the car, and I was like, oh, he turned around. He's like, "You talking to your mama?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I was like, "Oh, this is so kind of rude," but it was Mother's Day, and I knew my mom would be so tickled. So I was like, "Hey, Nick, do you mind saying Happy Mother's Day to my mom?" He's like, so I gave him the phone, and he got on the phone. He's like, "Hey, Happy Mother's Day." Yeah. "Okay, you take care now." And he handed the phone back to me, and I was like, "Okay, Mom, you heard it. Okay, goodbye, love you." And then Nick Nolte turns to me and he says, "Your mama thinks I'm Gary Busey." And so I was like, "Mom," I called her later. I was like, "So that was Nick Nolte," and she's like, "I know, I love him so much from the Amazon commercials," because Gary Busey was doing a big ad for Amazon for like a year, and Prince of Tides, like they're just one and the same to her. It was, it was a good blow for Nolte, I think. It brought him down a peg. It really bugged him because the next day he was like, "Your mama still think I'm Gary Busey." Like he was like, anyways. Okay, so that's my story. Thanks.
Kristen Schaal, everybody. And that is our show. Big round of applause to all the people that came up, read letters, stories, added so much. Thank you so much again for being part of this late night, and we're gonna keep the bar open for a little while, so grab a drink. Good night, everybody.